carry on. Kלים Perek Daled Mishnah Hey. In Mishnah Daled, we did those parts of the agola and the plow and the machresha, which are a kli in their own right, and therefore makabel tumah. Now we're dealing with those parts, those metal parts of the plow, and we're dealing, remember, when these parts are all by themselves, when they're not mechuber. And these are tohorin shabagola. These are metal, but they are tohor. What are they? Ha'oil hametzupa. We now have a wooden oil, a wooden yoke on the shoulders of the animals, and of course it's not a, as far as wood is concerned, it's tohor because it's not got a kli kibble. However, if they're metal plated, we've had this rule before. Depends why you metal plate something. If the metal plating actually assists in the function, then it gets a shem malchus. But here, the metal plating is just there as an ornament to make it look nice. And therefore, you don't go bossa the tzipoy. The ikka is the wood, and therefore the metal, although it looks like a metal oil, it's tohor. Kanafayim wasus l'noi. This is opposed to the kanafayim we had in Mishnah Daled. These are the edges of the oil used for the Mishnah Daled was talking about when the kanafayim are used to hold the straps. Now they don't hold straps. They don't have a function. They just made a noi for ornamental purposes. And although the tachshit of an odom is makabel tumah, tachshit of a behema, there's no posuk to tell you that a tachshit of a behema is makabel tumah. Therefore, they are not. Shofros hamashmias esakol. These are pipes on the side of the animal which actually make a noise as the animal moves. And the chiddush is here, their tachlis isn't to make a noise. Even though they make a noise, they sound like an instrument, but really they're just there to, it should look nice. They happen to make a noise when the animal moves, and therefore is not regarded as a musical instrument, and are not makabel tumah. Ho'avor shebetzad savrei behema. Avor is a piece of lead on the side next to the neck of the animal. This is purely done for ornamental purposes, and therefore is not a kli tashmish and is tar. Hasoyviv shel galgal. You have a wooden wheel, which of course is not makabel tumah, because you haven't got your kli eitz sheyesh b'beis kibble, and you have a metal strip round the wooden wheel to keep it, make the ride a bit smoother, or to protect the wood. It's a classic case of a metal being mishamish eso eitz, an eitz which is tar, and therefore the metal soviv itself is not makabel tumah. Hatasim atzipuyim, all metal plates. Tas is a big metal plate. Tzipuy just smaller bits of plating and coverings, covering the wood, and therefore because they cover those bits of the plough, and they have the same din as the wood they cover, and therefore they are tohor. Sha'akol masmor is torin, as opposed to the masmor which we had at the end of Mishnah Daled, which was a special loose masmor which was put in and put out, which is makabel tumah because it was a metal kli in its own right. These are regular nails which are banged into the plough as part of the manufacture. Therefore they become bottled to the plough, and therefore because they were stuck into wood, the masmor is tar. Sorry, even if they're stuck into metal, they become bottled to the metal, and before they're stuck in, don't have a shem tashmish b'fnei atzmai. Mishnah carries on. Sandalei behemo shel matchus tamein. Metal shoes of animals. Now these are not your typical horseshoe. These are actual sort of little shoes which have a cup-like structure, and they sit at the bottom of an animal. If they were just serving that one function of being a shoe for an animal, that wouldn't be makabel tumah, because a kli tashmish of a behema is not called a kli tashmish. However, the Gemara says that although being the shoe is the primary function, there is a secondary function which is very choshuv. Soldiers in the war sometimes use these cups, these shoes, to drink from. Therefore, the secondary function is choshuv enough to turn this shoe into a kli matchus. Shel sham, however, if the shoe is made out of bamboo, it's tahirin. Now, the Rambam holds that anything that comes from trees, grasses, reeds, cane, is all called got a din of kli eitz, and that would include bamboo. The reason why these shoes are tahor, says the Rambam, is because these keli made out of bamboo are particularly weak and not sturdy enough to have a shem kli. They don't last long, and therefore fall foul of the rules of kli eitz, and therefore, even though it's got a kibble, it's not chazak, and therefore it's tahor. And the Mishnah ends off, Hasayaf Me'emasai Mekabel Tumah. There's a machlokes how to learn this Mishnah. We'll do with the Perish the Baal Tanur, which is based on the Rash. We're dealing now with a sayaf as a sword. Me'emasai Mekabel Tumah. It sounds like we're talking at the beginning of its manufacture. But the Baal Tanur tells us we're talking about a sword which was okay. And then the sword becomes rusty to such an extent that it's now regarded to be broken and cannot be used as a sword, and you want to repair and remove the rust. At which point is it Makabel Tumah again, as if it's been made again? And of course, if you do that to a sayaf, it'll be Chayzele Tumosai Hayishana, as we learned at the beginning of Klim Matchas and Perikud Aleph. At which point, Mishayushufenu, when you rub it down with a file, a special metal file to remove the rust, removing the rust makes it back into a kli. In the case of a sakin with a knife, when you sharpen it again, removing the rust that way, there are obviously different processes in repairing a sword to repairing a knife, but once you've done that, the knife and the sword become